So it's finally happened. We've finally got a bit of an update on Final Fantasy XVI. It's not much. It really isn't much of an update, but it does give hope for the fact that we're going to get a bigger update very soon. Now, the update comes from Yoshi P commenting on the Uniqlo 35th anniversary t-shirts, which I'm sure everybody saw recently, and everyone got a little bit hyped at the fact that there was a Final Fantasy XVI t-shirt in the collection. And when I saw that, it kind of made me feel like they were expecting 16 to already be out. Like, that genuinely is what it feels like to me, that they were already expecting 16 to be out or very close to being out by this point, and that's why you've got merch being sold for it. But anyway, Yoshi P has been talking about Final Fantasy XVI. It's only a short comment, but we're going to jump into it, I'm going to go over it, and we're going to see what information we can take. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for future content. As the news starts picking up on the newer games that are coming, we'll have a lot more to talk about. So yeah, definitely get involved. But let's get into it. Yoshida starts by saying, "We're in the final stages of development for the new numbered game in the series, Final Fantasy XVI. Which we kind of already knew. We already knew that they were in the end game of developing Final Fantasy XVI. This isn't a shock to us. Like, they did say to us that we'd get news in spring. I don't think this is the news in spring. I think this is just a little passing thing that they've done. I don't think this is the news that we're going to get. I think we've still got something big to come." Now, Yoshida continues, "We aim to deliver a comprehensive game full of story and gameplay. Unlike an online game that involves many players at the same time, FF16 offers a different experience where it focuses on the individual player and immerses you in the story." Now, this is a little bit of a weird statement to me. You could take it quite easily as he's talking about the difference between a multiplayer game and a single-player game. I mean, that is what he's talking about. That is the kind of thing that he's talking about. And he definitely makes me feel like he's targeting the Final Fantasy XIV crowd, because a lot of them are new to the franchise. They've only really played 14, a lot of them. And this is going to be his attempt, I think, at bringing them into the fold in general. I think it's a very fleshed out story. For those who have grown up and realised that reality isn't kind to you and have drifted away from Final Fantasy, we hope that FF16 will be a game that can bring back anew the passion that you once had with the series. Okay, right, so I'm going to talk about this now in general. So the first thing that I've got an issue about, in general, it's a pretty vague statement. It is literally just them getting the information out that they are close to the end of development and that we should expect something soon. That's what it feels like to me. That's what the whole vibe of this paragraph feels like. That's all it is. It's just a little tidbit. It's not major news or anything daft like that. But the way that he speaks about it, and there could be issues in translation here, but I've seen a few translations that kind of go along this line where he uses the term focuses on the individual. And it worries me because we've already seen gameplay from Final Fantasy XVI and we do not see any other characters other than the main character involved in combat. And at the time I said, I really hope this hasn't just become an all-out action game, because there's dozens of them, there's hundreds of them. That isn't what Final Fantasy is to me. That is not what Final Fantasy is. Like, a big part of Final Fantasy is the journey with friends. And if you're just controlling one character on his mission throughout a kingdom, yeah, it could be good. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not going to be good, because it could be amazing. But it might not necessarily be what I expect from Final Fantasy and what millions of other people expect from Final Fantasy. And then that kind of leans into the next thing that he said, where he hopes that 16's a game that can bring back the passion that people once held for the series. And it could be. But I think one of the points that is potentially missing is that the franchise isn't the same as what it used to be. The game genre isn't the same as what it used to be. So it's gonna be tough to win a lot of people over when, it's still staying as different as it could be. It's still going to be an action game, which isn't what Final Fantasy has always been. So yeah, I think it's going to be a tough sell, that. I think it's going to be a tough sell. But we'll see. Like I say, it could be an amazingly good game. It could be a phenomenal game. But if you know me, you know that I personally have concerns about the direction Final Fantasy is going, about the fact that it's kind of moved away from all of its roots mechanically. And it seems like it's starting to move away from its narrative roots now by taking out the party, the journey with friends. I mean, we already saw in 15 that diminished party down to 4 people, women in the party. And it was fun, but it wasn't the same. The story between the bros in Final Fantasy 15 was quite fun, but it also wasn't what we expect from Final Fantasy. It wasn't the same. It didn't have the same feeling or vibe, at least in my perspective. 16 could fall foul of the same thing. It could end up being a really good game, but it might alienate older Final Fantasy fans who are more into the core Final Fantasy mechanics and storytelling tropes and everything like that. I don't know. I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to try it, obviously. It's a Final Fantasy game, a mainline Final Fantasy game, so I'm obviously going to jump into it. But I do have concerns. And yeah, I really do hope that we get an update soon, we get more footage, we get a release date, hopefully. The fact that this has come now says blatantly that we're in the final stages of development for the next game, Final Fantasy XVI. I think we're close. I think we're real close. So yeah, I'm going to be keeping an eye out for any big news coming about 16, as is everybody else, of course. But what do you think? How do you feel about 16? Are you looking forward to 16? How do you feel about the direction that 16 might be going, if it is going to a single character that you control? How do you feel about that? Are you cool with it? Are you not happy with it? For me, while I do enjoy action games, that's not what I come to Final Fantasy for. I go to other franchises for that. That's not what I come to Final Fantasy for. So, yeah. But let me know what you think. Drop a like on the video, subscribe for future content, and more importantly than anything, have a great day.